Hey everybody, another episode of Mowers and Blowers with you. Today I picked up this, yeah I know, Ryobi. They make, cheap drills and, hand saws and stuff like that. But I guess they also make lawnmowers. So as you can see, it's, a regular push mower. It's not self-propelled or anything. It's got the big wheels in the back. It's 6.5 horsepower and Briggs Stratton. Somewhat modern because it has this carburetor system over here. Anyway, the blade underneath it was loose, so I just tightened the bolt. That was pretty easy. It's a mulching blade. This only has a side discharge with the option of mulching by taking the cover off when you want to mulch. And so basically I tried to start it, and it started, but only after I primed it a couple of times, So after I primed it a couple of times, it started, and then it just stopped. So basically, I think it's the carburetor that's stuck, so it's not getting fuel into the carburation system. So what I'm going to do now is just simply take off this cover here. I've already loosened it up, so to spare you of watching me do it. So the carburetor filter comes, air filter cover comes right off like that, and it looks okay, but it's not like, in great shape. It could be replaced, but it'll, if you brush off the dust and the grime and stuff like that, it'll work okay. And then there's 3 bolts over here that I've already loosened. Make sure you don't lose these bolts because it's a pain to replace. It's held on, the backing is held on by a breather tube, which you just pull right out with a little bit of yanking. And then this carburetor, I've already loosened the bolts just to show you, is a carburetor with the 2 bolts, 1 and 2. So I've loosened that already. When I got this, I got it for $5. Definitely worth it for $5, right? Just doing a visual check, it wasn't missing anything. So here is the fuel tank line that goes from the fuel tank. You put the fuel in here. Here's the tank, and the fuel goes through this line into the carburetor. So basically, when I primed it over here 3 or 4 times, it got enough fuel to get into the carburetor and for it to start for about a second or 2, but then it stopped, which meant that the fuel is not being sucked up the carburetor to maintain the ignition. So you loosen that off, and of course there's usually fuel flows out of here, of which I normally stick a screwdriver in to stop the fuel flow, but since there's hardly any fuel in here at all, we don't have to do that, so we just let that hang there. It's only held on by the governor linkage with a twist like that, and it's off. So here is the carburetor, and since the primer button worked, it meant that this hole here is clear, okay? But using carburetor cleaner, we will blast these holes over here, and I will remove the screw here to take the float bowl off, and we'll check out what's inside and see how bad it is. So with a 13mm socket, I've loosened this bolt here. Sorry, it's hard to do with one hand. And no, I'm not going to get a camera and a tripod and all the other jazz. Alright, so look, sorry about the focus. So the bolt just came out right there. And usually this bolt, you could see through it. There's a little hole. And there you go. Can you see it or no? Oh, it's pretty clear, okay? So I'm thinking it's this. Let's see there. Hold on. Okay, I've just loosened the bowl from the carburetor. I tapped it a little bit with the handle of that screwdriver. And look at that. Is that disgusting or what? I mean, that's all varnished up. There's a tremendous amount of sediment in there. I guarantee you those holes are plugged up by some of that sediment, which is the reason why the fuel was not getting into the carburetor. So I'm going to get carburetor fluid cleaner, carburetor cleaner, and spray out all this gum stuff, clean it out. You pull out this pin. I can't believe I'm doing this with one hand, and lefty too, because I'm not a lefty. Okay. And there's the pin. Pin's not bad. Anyway, so that is the float apparatus, and the pin goes into that hole there, and that needs to be blown out, because that was the reason why no fuel was entering this tunnel there with the other two holes. So I'm going to use carburetor cleaner and blast out these holes. I wanted to quickly show you how disgustingly dirty this bowl was. You remember how it was all brown and stuff? Well, it's brown, and you just take a screwdriver and you just scratch, and it shows you all the built up grime and varnish that this is hardened into. This is probably never been cleaned. But anyway, so I'm going to take a wired bristle brush and just go over all that. And like I said, I'm going to take carburetor cleaner, which is like that. Usually it's about $3.50, $4 for a bottle. Sometimes you can get 2 bottles for $6. And you know, it goes really fast. You know, you'll probably be able to clean 2 or 3 carburetors with it if you're lucky. It really obviously depends on how bad the condition is, but it, you know, doesn't seem too bad. But every hole or orifice leads to some type of a jet, so every hole needs to be cleaned. Okay, here. There, here, and also this Welsh plug over here. They call it Welsh plug. Probably the inventor, Mr. Welsh, has it. This right there pushes out and comes out there, I believe. But also, you see this gasket here? In my other videos, I've told you that this gasket will blow up into a balloon if it touches any of that carburetor cleaner. So the best thing is to take this off while you're cleaning, otherwise you'll never get that float bowl back over this gasket. Anyway, so I'm going to clean this up and get back to you. So using the wired bristle brush, that's much cleaner, isn't it? Anyway, so you know those twisty ties that you use to close a bread bag or something like that? You just shear it off and you have this like long needle. And basically this long needle helps you get the holes there. So basically you can just clean it out like that. So this is the jet screw, which definitely needs to be clear, as well as the top too. Okay, sorry about the focus. Okay, can you see anything there? There you go. You see it? There, nice and clear. See that? That's what it needs to be. You can also blast that out with some cleaner right in the holes there. Careful if you wear glasses, because this carburetor fluid will just take off any ultraviolet coating on your glasses and completely ruin it. That's why I'm wearing like throwaway glasses. See how right over there, a lot of varnish built up there? Watch this. Wow. Also brushed that out. See how that works. Then I'll put all this together. Needle's been cleaned. The rod that holds the float, the bowl. Okay, so I've put this together. The needle onto the float back into that chamber with the rod through it to hold it together. The float bowl back onto it with the float nut jet. That's tightened. Okay. So then remember, this little twisty thing goes onto the governor linkage and attaches right there. Okay. After I tighten the screws there, carburetor's on. The fuel line goes back onto the fuel intake reservoir, and you have these clip clamps that go right over it, so it's nice and tight. Okay. Now the linkage is on, as you can see. Right? Opens and closed the choke. Now you have the base cover. Make sure that's clean. Just to make sure, get a bristle and brush away from the holes so that the debris doesn't get back into that area where you need it to be completely clean. It's a good practice all the time, every time. So anyway, it's 3 bolts, the 2 that goes right in there, and the 1 to secure it to the frame. Here's the breather hole, which goes right in there. Right? Push it in, 2 fingers. Kind of line up the holes. And first do the base so that it's secure. Easy to use these instead of a ratchet or anything like that. I won't do it too tight yet because I want to make sure that the holes are lined up. Sometimes if you tighten this one too tight, you won't be able to match up this one here. So just screw it on there to make sure that you're in the hole and it's loosely placed on there, so you can kind of play with it to make sure that it's, you know what I'm saying, exactly where it's supposed to be. Because if you did it wrong, maybe 1/2 millimeter or something like that, and it's off, it'll block that hole for the jet. And if it blocks that hole for the jet, you won't be able to primer it properly. So now that you got no looseness there, you don't have to do it super tight, just maybe, 25 or 30 pounds of torque, just estimation with your arm, with your strength, rather. Not too tight, but just enough, This one could be good. So we're not going to put on the air filter yet with the cover because I want to see if it starts first. But we're going to do this right now and see if it starts. I have to put gas in it, so give me a second. Okay, in moment of truth, I just put gas in it. Now let's primer it a few times, maybe 3 or 4 times. Hold on, whatever. Okay, the moment of truth, let's see if this baby starts. Almost. that's not good. I'm gonna have to work that out. Okay, I pressed the primer bulb a bunch of times more, and then the fuel started to come out over here, so I think it's working now. It needed a little time for the fuel to go through the carburetor and fill up the bowl, you know, for the primer bulb to be able to get the fuel to the carburetor input. So I just primered it a few more times actually, and it's all wet over there, so. Alright, well it works. And it stays running, which it wasn't doing before. So it's mixed in with a little bit of the bad gas. So once that clears up, I'll let it run a little bit, but I'll put the cover back on and clean it up.